The financial news networks are abdicating what would appear to be their primary function, which is to hold to account these enormous financial institutions.
I think that's absolutely right. I think we saw that in 08 and 09.
There are some very good journalists who are prepared to hold Wall Street to account, but
Right.
not as many as we need, that's for sure.
That strikes me as the lowest bar of entry to somebody that would call themselves a financial news network. It's very clear that the apes have uncovered all kinds of shenanigans and inequities and a two-tiered system that they don't have access to. And I don't think any of it would come as a surprise. Journalists that cover finance should be asking the same questions that the SEC is asking. Their interests should be aligned.
I think that's right. And by the way, there are folks out there who are taking, who do that kind of work, but they're not the folks who have the biggest microphone. And I have to be honest, John, I think that's why, if you look at something like 08, that's why it took so long for the journalists to accept that that's what was happening.
So I thought maybe tonight we could take a quick look and see how is the mainstream media been covering this AMC APE dividend split so far, why I feel like some of the reporting has been sinister, and then we'll touch on a few of the rumors, some more speculation about APE and the week that has been so far and what's coming up over the next few days. But before we do any of that and get way too far ahead of ourselves,
chew the speeder.
good evening, beautiful people. Guys, what's going on? It is Friday, August 26th, 2022, and that interview between Jon Stewart and Rob Jackson took place a few months back. We covered it pretty heavily here when it first was broadcast, and I'm coming back to it tonight because some of the things that were discussed in this half-hour interview we've seen happening to us this week with the APE AMC dividend split on Monday. We know the last couple of days they've both been down, and the media has played its role in that, and I want to discuss that tonight. I also want to touch on Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve. We know he's going to be speaking tomorrow from Jackson Hole in Wyoming. What he possibly could have to say, its effect on the market, and if we have time before I let you go, I want to briefly discuss the synthetics and how
it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Okay, but let's start off first with the media's coverage of the AMC APE split. Watch.
Ready to explain why buyers need to really beware of what's happening at AMC. You like my meme? Is it meme, Karen, or meme? I mean, it's
perfect. This is just, he is the salesman of all time, and this is just ridiculous. It's smoke and mirrors for sure. He knows it. Everybody knows it. Basically, he knows he needs to raise more money in the future. He told us how hard the business is. So he knows that he also promised the shareholders he wasn't going to issue more stock. But instead, he issues magical stock. And that's what these apes are. The AMC preferreds, normally preferred to get a dividend. You get zero dividend here. Basically, it's a stock split, which he kind of told you that's just what it's like, except he doesn't need your vote to issue more of these in the future. And since he told the shareholders, I don't want to dilute you, that's kind of exactly what future magical ape shares are going to do. They're going to dilute you. So he goes through this whole rigmarole, how great it is, and then he says we're in a vastly, and I mean vastly, much stronger position from this smoke and mirrors. I don't really get it. If I were a shareholder, I'd kind of be offended. I know he's just trying to save his company, so I'm sympathetic, and he's done a masterful job of selling anything that he possibly could, including NFTs. I think you get an ape NFT here as well. It's been quite a Sisyphean task to try to save this business, and yet he's been able to do it time and time again. Whether this will allow him to stay afloat, yeah, probably will. But if you were a shareholder who voted not to let him issue more shares, and then he comes out with these magical ape shares, I would be kind of pissed.
If there's one aspect of this play I think has remained pretty consistent throughout, has been Adam Aron's communication with retail and the shareholders as far as his plans for the company going forward and keeping his word. And I played this clip because we knew for a while what was going to be going on, depending on whose channel you were watching. We understood that there was going to be dilution coming and that this wasn't going to be an immediate thing, but it was going to give Adam Aron the ability to raise more money and pay off this debt. And when he says he's vastly improved the fundamentals of this company right now without actual dilution, I would say that that's a fact, because it really does wreck the short thesis going forward. And Tony covered this very well in his video. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link in the description. Now, if it wasn't for the coverage from some YouTubers out there and other types of media outlets, if you just were relying on the mainstream media, do you see how easy it would be to have manipulated you into getting out of your position on Monday with the kind of reporting that's going on? Even though we were well aware ahead of time as retail that this was going to be coming, it just goes to show you how disingenuous this media can be and why these things need to be fixed. And I plan on coming back to revisit this subject matter and discuss it again at length. But for right now, we got to move on because Jay Powell and the Fed are going to speak tomorrow from Jackson Hole. And according to most news reports that we're seeing, it's not going to be based on information investors are going to want to hear. Apparently, according to CNBC, Powell is expected to emphasize that the central bank will use all the firepower it needs in the form of interest rate hikes to snuff out inflation. So apparently the inflation bill that was just passed is not going to be enough, go figure. He is also likely to point out that after the Fed finishes raising rates, it is likely to hold them there, contrary to market expectations that it will actually start to cut interest rates next year. The article goes on to say that Powell is unlikely to provide any substantive clues to resolve the market debate about whether the central bank will raise rates by a half point or 3/4 of a point in the next policy meeting, which is taking place in just about a month. Before the Fed meets in September, there is another major employment report next Friday and the August Consumer Price Index or CPI data on September 13th. All of those numbers are going to play into what we're going to see happening this fall in the market. So stay tuned. We'll definitely cover that tomorrow night. Now, before I let you go, we talked about synthetics and how it's not about what you know, but what you can prove. Now, depending on who you've been watching for the past 6, 8, 12, 16 months, you could very easily believe right now that there are more than 25 billion synthetics out there for AMC. And while we haven't been able to prove that that's not correct, we definitely haven't been able to confirm that it is correct. And certainly AMC and Adam Aron have not confirmed that there's at least 25 billion synthetics out there, although I do think there is some manipulation going on when it comes to that. Now, I understand that a lot of you in Europe and overseas and possibly in Canada have not received your shares yet. Matter of fact, if you haven't, could you please let me know what country you're in and whether you've received them or not by Thursday? I know that was supposed to be the cutoff date for many brokers. If you haven't, please leave it down in the comments because I would like to get an idea of how many people have not received their APE shares yet. Now, I'm definitely not saying there aren't a number of synthetics out there, but I think the numbers that other people are talking about are a little outrageous. And so far, the data is not matching up with the expectations. But it doesn't mean in the future we're not going to be able to prove that there is a lot of corruption behind what we've seen in the last couple of days. Now, before I let you go, I just want to finish up with telling you what my feelings are on this play in general. I haven't sold any of my shares since AMC and APE split. I am still bullish on the company. I think that Adam Aron has done a fine job of making the case no longer viable for shorts to be able to go after this company. He has plenty of ammo now in his back pocket that he can use at some given specific time. I don't expect it to be anytime soon, but that he can use to raise more capital, get us out of this debt, and get us back to profitability. Hopefully, with the fourth quarter movies we see coming up, I'm not excited about Q3, but Q4 with having a new Black Panther and a new Avatar, which has been highly anticipated for over 10 years now, I think we're looking like we're in okay shape right now, and I'm not in any rush to get out of either of my positions. Alright guys, that's all I got for tonight. I am exhausted. Tomorrow night, hopefully we're going to be going live so we can take some questions from you guys if you still have them. I'm going to hope for a good day tomorrow, but remember, 10 o'clock, Jay Powell comes out. I wish you guys all the best. I love all you guys, and as always, thank you for the likes, the views, the comments. My new subscribers, my OGs, I appreciate each and every one of you. We're here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.